Hey guys, so today I posted on Facebook. Some people were confused what I was talking about. I just want to talk and clarify a little bit about how a part of us is already God. And what does that mean? And so, what does that mean? Because this video is going to kind of be for people who are already understanding that, who already believe that like the Bible is a myth. This is going to be easier for them to understand. This is for those people. And it's for people who already believe that they are a part of God, because we're going to make sense of that for them. Of course, if you're open to it, then you'll probably get something from this as well. But I just want to explain a little bit about my post today. And again, we're talking about the microcosm of ancient astrotheology. Again, this was the mirror of the microcosm against the astrology or astrotheology, which was the stars or the cosmos, is the universe. And the microcosm is contrasted against the macrocosm. And then this is how you make sense of things, because it's the relativity of the universe and the dualism of the perceiver and the perceived, or the yin and the yang. And that's how you understand ourself. Is through duality, and that's where all truth comes from, is the relativity between those two things. So that is the origins also of religion, relationships with the world, relationships in civilizations and communities, and truth. So I said it's basically impossible for people to not believe in God, which is kind of offensive, and I have to clarify, because that doesn't even make it's easy to mistake what I mean there, because people already have a definition of God in their view, and of course there's lots of definitions of God. So what I mean by that, and what I mean by that is that part of you that is your highest authority, or your highest decision-making faculty and reasoning process. And of course I'm trying to make sense of the Bible, psychology, and how it affects our psychology to believe in God, and how it can be healthy and how it might not be healthy. Of course, that's very deep and sophisticated, and it's not going to be have any pat answers unless you have particular questions. So when I say it's impossible not to believe in God, it is basically it is because God is the truth, and of course that's in the scriptures with the idea of the Trinity. Even though there's not a lot of background in the scriptures for that, there is verses about that say the Spirit is the truth, and that's 1 John chapter 5, where it says the Spirit is the truth, and it goes on. It's kind of put in context, but it's there. And then Jesus says, "I am the truth, the way, and the life," in John chapter 10 of the Gospel, and like, if you're a Methodist, you've already learned that a lot of this stuff came from the Egyptian. You can trace it back to the Egyptian mythology and religion. And so what you have is this basically a metaphor for truth, and you can make sense of that through the philosophy of Plato. And a lot of people nowadays believe that a lot of Christianity came from Platonic philosophy as well. And the concept of the great year, Plato had his own theory about that. And that gets into the ages of the Bible and the time statements, but won't go there today. But what we have is this idea of the sun being the truth. So this is, again, we're talking about the macrocosm now, is Plato's allegory of the cave. You have men in the cave who are in the dark, and then they go into the light, and the light is a metaphor for truth. So truth is associated with God, because God brings light, and he brings truth, and he brings life, and he's the author of life. And of course, we all have life. We would say that the part of us is perceiving this body, and this life is life itself, and that is the source consciousness. And then that gets into the moral question of how can we take responsibility for our actions, and ultimately, I believe we cannot take responsibility for our actions if we are not a part of our origin, because we didn't cause our origin. We're not part of the first cause of our origin. We're not part of the one that became the many. So then that gets into how a part of you is God already, just by the fact that the universe is expanding and emanating into the unknown and looking back on itself as the macrocosm. So we actually started as this microcosm, which is ourselves. So if we look at ourselves, we understand most accurately the origins of the universe. And then so we understand the greatest mystery. And that's why in like the Gospel of Luke 17, it talks about how the kingdom of God is within you. Nobody's going to say, here it is or there it is. Like a lot of literalist religion will teach you. People who take the Bible literally are called literalists. And then so that becomes a woodenly literal interpretation, which again, it's more for children or people who are new to the religion. They haven't really redefined these words for themselves. So they're kind of stuck in an ideology still. They haven't tested it with reality or against philosophy of reality and their experience. But once you've done that, then you realize, God's character wouldn't be that way because I'm not that way, and the deepest part of me is actually expanding and loving and peaceful consciousness. But I mess myself up by getting my mind twisted in all these different religions and ideologies, and so that comes through meditation naturally, and then through the stages of psychological development, you begin to identify with more and more forms of life and even sentient life, and identify eventually with everything because you begin to understand everything. And then that's what love means, is you take others as, you see them, everything as a part of you. And because no man would not care for his own body. And then so everything's tied up in all the myths. So the myths are complex layers of meaning that can be interpreted through these duality principles. And that's how they're made most clear. So that's why I like to meditate on the myths through the concept of the zodiac and the ancient view of the universe, which is more of a flat earth model with the language around it. And then you can contrast that view of the universe, ancient astrology, and compare it to even modern psychology and emotional psychology to talk about the church. And you realize that the church is like Jesus calls the church his body. So then you understand the church by looking at your body and your emotions, and how if you can bring up that praise or build the skill of higher vibrational attitudes of being, then you can ascend the Christ consciousness or your reasoning faculty, because it won't be clouded by fear and guilt and shame and all these things that things like the law and stuff, or the inner critic, which just perpetuates things like narcissism or codependency. So that, again, that's another whole subject which I'm learning about now, is narcissism and codependency, and the Bible psychology around that is more something I have to reflect on. But I'm just beginning to understand more narcissism because I've only read the first few books on it through Audible, and I'm listening to Codependency for Dummies, and I'm realizing that the relationship between the codependent person and the narcissist is the same as if you look at a destructive cult, is its members are basically under the power of the cult leader, which has become this narcissist who is coping with his trauma just in a different way, but he's unfortunately not finding healing for that trauma, and both of those groups have to look at their own boundaries and have to establish boundaries for themselves that are real in the real world on this dimension, in the third dimension, so that they can stabilize themselves and their inner consciousness to higher principles or transcendental principles, so that they can maintain a higher vibration on those higher dimensional levels, like the fifth dimension, and they all exist at once, and they're all affected by everything you do on every dimension. So then you have, what else did I say in that post? It was yeah, basically I expressed it already. Like when you turn God into a loving God in your mind, then your inner critic or the judge that will cause you shame or not shame. Like a lot of Christians are kind of using this hypothetical idea of a God. So it's good to ask them hypothetical questions to help free them to think more creatively about what's going on with their own mind, because they've kind of externalized something, but the effect on them is the same as if they would see it in their own mind. That's important to remember. And again, beliefs like the Bible is inerrant will cause those things to happen without you realizing that you're still the person who's creating those beliefs and interpreting those things in that way. And it's easy to get tangled up in that when you're just reading a text for what it is, and you're not understanding, you don't have a solid basis in your own psychology. And that's how you can end up in things like a cult. You can have your foot in the door in a certain belief, and then you end up in a destructive cult for however long, many years, and waste a lot of time thinking you're going to go to heaven one day, but unfortunately you have to die to get there. So that's the kind of thing we're trying to prevent as well, or I'm trying to prevent with my career and my mission to understand the Bible and ancient astrotheology, which is, I believe, is behind all religions, and which relates to, again, to the ancient psychology, and then you can understand what is actually healthy and can be realistic about it, and you can have a realistic and pragmatic belief or perspective on the world, so that you can feel safe going out and exploring the mysteries of the universe, without ending up in a destructive cult, like I have been, and I had to study my way out of. And that's just a little bit of my story right there. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify some of that, because I know some of the things I put out can be confusing, but I just wanted to clarify a few of the points these things are in scripture, and that it's not like I'm just making this stuff up, because I know people will easily disagree, but so I just wanted to clarify, because people didn't really say why they disagree, but I think it helps if I just clarify for myself, so that I feel like I'm providing a little bit more information for you guys, and it also helps me to learn what I know already in my head a second time, and to manifest it in words and speech. So that's kind of my update for tonight. I got this new camera, so it was a good deal. I got it off the internet here, and some is used, but it was barely used. I might make some more videos with that. I'm considering applying here for school for continuing my Bachelor of Psychology degree. So I think it's going to be a good next few months. I think 2021 is going to be a better year than even last year in terms of my career. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to share for today. I think I should end it there. If you watched this long, thanks for watching. I do have a YouTube channel. I have a Facebook group, but I'm also part of the Myth Vision Radio group. If you'd like to subscribe to that or follow that on Facebook, the YouTube channel is called Myth Vision Podcast. And then my channel is just called Kevin Maxwell. And then my Facebook group is called Bible, Psychology, and Astrotheology. And that's been changing a little bit. I changed that from Sharp and Active before, so if there's confusion, that's the update. So have a good night, guys. Thanks for watching.